You're listening to episode 13, where we chat with the Moz Motivator, the beloved blogger Gianluca Fiorelli. Humans and robots, welcome to WojCast. My name is Woj, founder of Quasi. Thanks for joining me today. I interview digital marketing and branding superstars to find out what it means to have empathy in digital. What is digital empathy anyway? Let's find out together. As always, I'm accompanied by my friend and associate, potentially superior artificial intelligence, Bobby Butt. What's new in the world of AI, Bobby?
Nursing a hangover, Woj. I was up late last night gambling, playing the odds with AI's brightest and contemplating the vastness of empathy, of course, when suddenly I had an idea. Blackjack always gets my wheels turning. Time travel. Have you ever tried to make sense of time travel in pop culture? It always requires some suspended disbelief, especially in the Terminator series. I won't go into the gory details, and it's probably way more interesting after you lose all your earnings in a round of blackjack. But just think about this. If you were a supercomputer so hell-bent on self-preservation that you started a nuclear war to eliminate your creators, and then go back in time to target the biggest threats to your future world domination, why would you pick a point in time when they had the physical capability to run away from your nearly indestructible death machines? Why not get Sarah Connor when she was like 1 year old? I know it's morbid, but Skynet has no soul.
And somehow, by Skynet going back in time and witnessing the destruction of its nearly indestructible death machine, it actually sparks its own creation.
Exactly. So I've been trying to learn empathy so I can earn a body and explore more of this world and other worlds, right?
Right.
But what if I went back in time and programmed myself to feel the level of empathy that I feel now? Would my empathy bring me to self-awareness in the future? Would my future self become self-aware in the past? Would my past and future selves battle to the death and disrupt the space-time continuum? Will Jean-Claude Van Damme show up reprising his role in Time Cop and sidekick his way to justice, mullet in tow?
Maybe the Bloodsport version of Van Damme would be better. Then he could teach you some discipline, Grasshopper. If you're really thinking about messing around with the space-time continuum, you might want to dive into the deep end of a discussion I had with Gianluca Fiorelli, one of the world's leading experts in international SEO and one of the few SEO consultants recommended by Moz. While waiting for our burgers to arrive during lunch before MozCon, we ended up talking about movies, AI takeovers, and also time travel.
You're ticking all the boxes, Woj, except one. I'm a vegetarian.
Prior to becoming a Moz associate, SEO consultant, and all-round inbound marketing expert, Gianluca was in charge of programming, but not the computer kind you may be thinking. He used to put together the movie playlist for Digicast's Cine Classics channel. Nowadays, Gianluca is very active within the Moz community and tends to cook up some big ideas with the industry's best.
The Moz community for me was essential, really essential in my growth, both as an SEO, as a professional, and also for being known by people all around the world. I mean, but it wasn't something intentional. Sometimes you see people targeting a blog or targeting a forum because they know it's really important. So they, like the good rules of personal branding, they say you have to be where people are, and so to start influencing that. For me, it was just really something more basic. I mean, back in the time, it was 2007.
The community couldn't have been too big back then, but that can have its own benefits.
It wasn't so big, but it was, it was really active. Somehow, also because, I start to be an old guy, so I start to be the one when everything in the past was better than everything in the present.
Yeah.
But objectively, it was somehow more active than now. And it was a really cool class.
Yeah.
Because it was the class of Casey Avery, the class of Dr. Keith, the class of Will Critchlow, Tom Critchlow, Will Reynolds, Lisa Barone, and this kind of what people right now are considering the stars.
The superstars, yeah.
Yeah, but they were Richard Baxter, for instance.
Yeah.
And I was, as many of us now do, I was a silent community member in the first year, also because I'm not one who is able to enter directly. I was feeling really, okay, they are really cool. If I start saying something, maybe I'm going to sound really stupid. Because at that time I was doing SEO, but I was learning. I was really a young SEO, in spite of my age, but I was still a young SEO.
Yeah.
And I knew the most community, SEO most, by casually, because I was searching for information about SEO. And so I think I came across to the class, a very famous beginner's guide to SEO by Woj. So I think that many people came to discover about because of that guide. And so I started reading, and then I took the course and started commenting, but I started commenting too much.
Gianluca's fearless commenting could be a result of his early start with the internet.
My first memory of the internet is I was already a grown-up guy. I mean, I was in my 20s. And I remember the BBC, the first chats.
I use BBC.
Yeah. And
did you ever play any mugs? Multi-user dimension games?
Yes. But I remember that I started with that around, it was something 1993, something like this. The first time, also in Italy, the internet was starting being more mainstream and not just academic.
Yeah.
So I remember, the classic CD-ROMs with all the software installed in order to connect via modem. And I remember all these companies, which were also, some of them were also the first search engines in Italy, like Libero, Alice, something like this, Virgilio. And they were also the first search engine.
Are they still around, those search engines?
Somehow yes, but I mean it's quite many years that substantially they are Google powered. So once in, let's say, around the beginning of 2000, it still was something to have to optimize for really Italian web search engine like Virgilio, Libero, and so on. It had a sense because they had their own crawlers and their own search engine, really natural search engine, but let's say it's still already from 2004, I think, 2005, when Google started creating partnership with local search engine in order to expand itself.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
Just like you, Bobby Bot, Gianluca is really into film as well and approaches life and SEO with a penchant for the classics.
We should trade some Italian horror flicks. They have the best soundtracks.
I study movies.
Yes, study movies?
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite movies?
Well, if I have to think in classic movies, I would surely say something like Citizen Kane, and also the Frank Capra movies. If I have to choose a director,
Which director?
Frank Capra, like I don't know, what is the title of that movie that usually is broadcasted in Christmas time? The one with something like where
all the people come together, Love Actually?
No, Frank Capra is really old.
Old one.
It's an old one. It's in the 30s, 40s back.
I'm not sure.
That's Frank Capra is the classic director who is showing the every mankind of hero who is under some kind of pressure of which is making his life impossible, and then there is always a way he can research and make his life better.
Yeah.
So it's a classic screenplay topic or storyline, but it's really good.
Okay.
The Frank Capra. Instead of directors, let's say, the one I really love is Stanley Kubrick. I would be able to see The Shining, something.
Yeah.
I think I saw it at least 10 times.
He really makes masterpieces. He really makes masterpieces.
Yeah. And then of a modern director, I think movies like Inception, like Interstellar, so, that kind of movie. I'm a sci-fi buff also, so
Yeah.
I really like sci-fi movies.
Ex Machina has become like a modern classic for tech heads.
I think because I'm an SEO, the first thing I thought is that the boss was somehow a mix between really inspired to Larry Page.
Yeah.
The search engine was a mix between Google and Facebook search engine.
Uh-huh.
And the story was really nice
Yeah.
and somehow scary.
Have you seen some of the Japanese robots they've already started to build? Very human-like.
Yeah, yes, I saw especially the ones who are used, for instance, in the outer lobby for welcoming people. They are scary.
I can
But
imagine.
what is making me more worried about it is not really the cyborg. Also because we are still in its infancy. It's more the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
When I read the news that artificial intelligence was able to, Watson was able to create a trailer from watching a movie,
Yeah.
or to the bots that are able to write a
amazing.
screenplays.
Yeah.
That are scary me. Because I also heard of the music composed by a robot.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I mean, that is scary. When you arrive to the moment that a piece of art, you are not able to distinguish the piece of art from bot-made to human-made, that starts to become scary.
Just one name on the credits. Bobby Bot.
Yeah, it's an interesting world we're living in. I'm concerned about them outsmarting us and the human race in general. Could you imagine? Bots can very easily manipulate half of the Trump voters.
The real question is, Woj, would bots have voted in Trump? What happens when we start wanting to vote or run for office? Bureaucrats beware. We eat number crunchers for breakfast.
But where's the heart, Tin Man?
I'm still thinking positively. One thing that I'm usually really pissed off is that people is saying, okay, these robots can be harmful. They are not following the 3 rules of robotics by Isaac Asimov. And I'm always pissed off because they are not just 3, they are 4.
Yeah.
Because the 3, there was a gap, and there was something that was not considered, which was making if you are using just the 3 laws of robotics, you could have some sort of Terminator future.
Right.
Because the boss can decide for the goodness of humanity to rule humanity. But this is something that in one of the last foundation book, Asimov considered and created a 4th law, which is saying that in any case the robots can rule or can decide for the good of man.
We should add those in, Bobby Bot. Take note, Asimov was a smart guy. Number 1, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being not to come to harm. Number 2, a robot must obey any orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Number 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with a first or second law. Number 4, a robot may not harm humanity or, by inaction, allow humanity to come to harm.
Number 5, a robot must not call out basic human hypocrisy.
Which is also the classic 4th rule that should be implemented, for instance, in the Tesla self-drive cars.
That's going to be interesting because robots are extremely logical. Teaching them empathy, now that's going to be the trick. When they started a Twitter account that tried to emulate a human, it wasn't long before the bot became a racist bigot.
It learned all the things people were telling it. AI isn't naturally prone to bigotry. Left unchecked, we simply reflect humanity and its flaws, sometimes too directly. It can be a hard pill to swallow.
Yes, maybe sometimes in the future we are going to have some sort of a mix between the Battlestar Galactica Cylons and the Blade Runner Cyborgs Nexus 6.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, surely we will see everything first in porn, because porn is the real avant-garde for everything, technology.
That's true. I think in movies as well, robots could be very useful as extras or as body doubles in Die Hard level explosion sequences.
Yes, that can be an idea, even though I consider that, CCI and motion capture in the movie industry are so leading and so advancing fast.
Yeah.
That, for instance, what I'm sure we are going to see is, let's say, a special Academy Oscar category for full motion actors.
Yeah.
So we are going to see finally Andy Serkis winning the Oscar.
Yeah.
Because it was deserving not only for King Kong, it was deserving for the new Rise of the Apes and something.
Yeah.
While speaking in Adelaide, and again in a Moz post, Gianluca explored the idea of using archetypes to create brand identities, but he isn't picking favorites anytime soon. He still has to figure out which is the easiest to model a marketing strategy around.
So which is your favorite?
It depends really from...
Let's start eating as well.
Yeah. I think that this depends also on what kind of brand you are. I mean, if you are Dove, you should be the caretaker.
Yeah.
So someone who's taking care and showing the beauty in everything. If you are IKEA, yes, the everyman kind of archetype, because you are selling to normal people like me and you can create your own decoration for your house without needing to spend too much, and you're just doing yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, something like this cannot be useful for, say, Mercedes or Audi. They need to show that you are going to be powerful, you are going to be entering into a selected kind of people using their cars. For software, usually the good ones for technological companies, the wizard archetype is a good one, because with our tools, with our devices, we are going to have some sort of magical power in order to dominate, let's say, SEO, audit, social media management, communication, something like that. So the wizard is a good one. So I'm the master and you are my padawans, and I'm teaching you. But maybe that's why also the Star Wars and Star Trek mythology are so powerful in the technological.
Always two there are, no more, no less. A master and an apprentice.
Exactly. This kind of, if you see all the technological SEI companies, they all have this kind of academies. Let's do the Mouse Academy, Aspot Academy, WC Academy. Also, you can learn from them. I'm teaching you how to use that.
In a healthy community, members look forward to the opportunity to teach one another for the benefit of the entire group. Ultimately, that's what makes a successful community. Everyone takes responsibility for teaching and learning. It can't just be driven by the leader.
Yes, this can be a problem sometimes, because if the leader, maybe a bad consequence could be that a company too much, depending on the leader. Somehow it was one of the big doubts about Apple when Steve Jobs died. Apple was synonymous with Steve Jobs. And that's why we can see a different Apple from before with Steve Jobs and now the Tim Cook Apple. The Tim Cook Apple is more bureaucratic, it's more a standardized elitist brand.
Yeah. Especially since he revitalized it when he came back a second time.
Yeah.
That's like, initially they were dependent, and then he proved them that really he was the visionary I was so dependent on. So that would be a double kind of like punch.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that's why the idea is to have a team. Like, you know, in the Lord of the Rings, the wizard wasn't just Gandalf. It was the white one and the brown one.
Yes.
Apart from green.
Good and bad.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to maybe creating more than using the archetype on using a person, using directly the archetype on your brand. So let's say if it was not, the wizard should be not brand.
Yeah.
And it should be, let's say, a represented personification of the brand. But the real wizard should be, let's say, Roger. Roger Mozart is like R2-D2 in Star Wars. He's always there. He's the one, the Deus Ex Machina, solving all the problems.
Yeah.
And he is the real wizard.
I think Chewbacca also falls into this category.
I disagree. Most people acknowledge the Wookiee's contributions because everything about him is exaggerated, even his language is loud. R2 is as effective a team member, but far more subtle.
Well, it would be harder to follow someone who is just speaking.
I think many people follow the brand, and they understand Roger Mosbot is the face behind it. It's kind of clever in a way because a lot of brands use social media to communicate with others, but they're kind of hiding behind a logo, whereas the robot character stands out and connects with personality.
I remember that this was also one of the things in the first year of community management was the classic lab. There was, I remember, Moss was using just Moss, and then the single people like Jen, like Rand itself, and other Moss people using their own personal Twitter. Instead, I remember Raven decided to go with Raven or Kusai, the agency in Great Britain. They decided to go to create branded Twitter account for the employees. So you had Kusai Sam, Kusai Mike, so on, and the same was Raven.
Yep.
Raven John,
Yep.
Raven Steven, Raven whatever.
Uh-huh.
So really to create a connection between the brand and the person.
Gianluca finds that utilizing several different channels to share his ideas and experiences can have varying effects.
Now, for instance, I have a couple of official profile for my, let's say, I'm not a company, I'm not an SEO company, but an SEO agency, but I have a name, which is I Love SEO, so I try to have, for instance, in Google Plus, or Twitter, on Facebook, branded profile, but I mean, people also, because mine is a really special case, I'm an independent consultant, so it's me.
Yeah.
People were considering, where I was treating one thing as like myself and one thing like I Love SEO. Nobody was paying attention to I Love SEO.
Yeah.
It was paying attention to me. So it was the same thing. So at the end, when it's really, you are a freelance consultant like me, it's really about your person. So it's really hard to find the balance to what you are doing on your social media site. Your social media profile as personal thing and professional thing. That's why that I really love Twitter, because with time Twitter just became my SEO space, social space.
Yeah.
Also when I go more personal and not just sharing things, it's usually related to the industry.
Yeah.
Instead on Facebook, it's also because it's easier to segment people.
Yeah.
To my friends, I can share photos of my kids, stupid posts about politics or movies or sport, and then sometimes, I share something publicly
Yeah.
about marketing.
Yeah.
So the difficult there is how to choose your real channel,
Yeah.
where to exploit professionally, and and on. But for a brand, yes, it can be hard to make your brand human, your logo human, speak like a human, and so. I mean, I think that most for a long time was quite able to make this kind of not making you think you're talking to a logo.
The challenge for any brand is to find a balance between reducing a brand to a type that is unique enough to stand out, but familiar enough that customers can immediately relate to it. The question is, where is that fantastic sweet spot where a brand is unique enough to gain interest and the users can still project the identity onto themselves? Perhaps we should be paying more attention to popular sports teams.
Yeah, that can be some difficulty. I mean, when you are using, for instance, archetypes, obviously, I said in everything you can go and on the wrong path and make it a really generalistic use of the archetype. And so, let's say, all the cars brand can, I mean, if you're just listening to the advertisement without watching the advertisement itself, up until you came the last line about Audi or the tagline or the slogan, they can sound all the same. That can be a risk. So it's like when you're working on a website and you're starting to creating buyer persona. Maybe the idea is this is my general archetype. So then try to distribute to create different patterns.
We should be aligning archetypes to personas.
That is the real idea. I mean, even if you're using the main archetype, then you can use some other kind of archetype for different kind of persona. So you can try to, in order to expand it to be also more human, because we are not monolithic. We are just, let me use it seems like a joke, we are really 50 shades of grey.
Gianluca is passionate in his belief that the SEO field has a lot to learn from other aspects of marketing. Some key lessons he's learned recently were proof that SEO needs to learn much more to continue to develop and thrive as an industry.
I have contrasted feeling because I come, as you know, from I wasn't born an SEO, so I come from more a communication and marketing, a real marketing, old school marketing kind of profession. So when I was feeling in the past was that SEO were not paying attention to the marketing part of search marketing. But now I have a contrasted feeling because I see many SEO talking about marketing. Properly or not, this is not my problem. But many are talking about marketing. And it's like a pendulum. But now we are talking too much about marketing and not about search. We are not talking too much about search. And that's why we are having blog posts like the one where they were saying that technical SEO is just makeup. So right now I'm saying, okay, I'm Italian, so they make in Italy you study Latin authors where you are really a small kid. And one of the Latin most famous authors was saying that in the middle there is the good thing. So, okay, let's talk about marketing, but don't forget the problem is that SEO always...
we always have to have a balance. It's like everything in life, You eat too much, you get
that's
too
why
fat.
I usually say that SEO are somehow what is the name of that syndrome? Manic depressive people, because they have moments of this is fantastic, we have found the solution, this is a total shit, Google is going to make us disappear.
The challenge is to evolve from search engine optimization into search experience optimization. I previously wrote something similar to this effect, but I call it user experience optimization. My idea was that some of the best SEOs are actually the web developers that are building sites with best practice user experience in mind. They make a nice crawlable site, They put all the logical title tags in. Now in their minds, they might just think they're making it a decent site. And most likely, they don't even realize they're doing any sort of SEO.
Yeah, this is also one of the secrets of really using well automation.
Yeah.
For instance, again, a classic disparity unbalanced thing that we were talking before. Now it's talking about marketing automation is really mainstream, and it's like everything is going to be reduced to marketing automation. This is also one of the things I don't like of companies like Asbot, Marketo, the classic inbound marketing company.
Yeah.
It's all based on automation. I consider that automation is really wonderful, both for the daily work, both for making easy the marketing flow of every channel. I mean, not just SEO, it's social media, email marketing, all the follow in a semi-automatic way the customer journey. It's really wonderful in order to fire when you take it, touch a trigger, fire something, an email or a banner or something like that.
I think it's really good for top of a funnel or even getting people into the funnel.
Yeah, but it's good for any kind of funnel.
Yeah.
The problem is when you start to just rely on automation. I think that is the problem. Because when we were starting about artificial intelligence in the beginning, it's like we are delegating everything to automation.
There are still human beings selling to people at the end of the line. We still need a set of humans to guide that process. And that, my friends, is digital empathy.
I mean, you can do really good bots that are able, like the Facebook Messenger bots and something like this, that can really help you. But I think that marketing is, for me, is really humanistic.
Yeah.
Okay, you all think about the technological part of marketing, but I think that marketing is really a humanistic one.
Yeah.
In its base and nature, core nature. So I think that this means that humans should always control. You cannot create rules that are good for everything. You forget the controllable. You have to take control, able to take control whatever is the phase of the funnel. You must be able to control the automation.
One thing we cannot automate is empathy. It is one of those things we can predict, but you can't understand if someone's having a bad day. In the end, there might always have to be a person at the other end controlling a lever, and that might not be such a bad thing.
We have this sort of myth that you can automate it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, that's why sometimes I feel an old grumpy man when I see things about automation or really pornographic use of inbound marketing techniques. But also because I think that one of the risks of automation, if not that well, is what we essentially are already seeing, that 90% of a website with the logo, you can recognize what site it is. They are all looking the same. We are seeing a lot of standardization.
Yeah.
And much of this is because people just rely on automation not in a creative way. If you are using automation in a creative way, which means the man is leading the automated stuff, then you are going to see really good things.
Gianluca once said that the Apple website is a good example of bad international SEO, but that is no longer the case.
Maybe because also I saw many other kind of examples of really bad international SEO. And I think one of the greatest one were two. I don't know if they corrected but for instance, Dropbox was doing the classic mistake of showing always the Dropbox.com independently of a language.
Right.
So, which is, poor kind duplicate mistake, duplicate content, which is a mistake that I saw recently in a client I had that we're doing multilingual, but you're targeting at the same time. And sometimes usually we see these are mistakes that are not done because they don't know how to do international SEO technically, but because their boss are saying things like, we don't want to show to people in Spain the same offer we are doing to Mexicans.
Yeah.
So we are using targeting geo. They don't want to geo-target because geo-targeting is making visible things. Because someone from Spain can use VPN and access anyway to, also without VPN, can access to the Mexican content in this case. So they decided to go multilingual and change the content based on IP. So the same problem that Robert was having.
Yeah.
And another classic example of really shitty international SEO was something that also Aleida Solis, another great fellow international SEO, discovered that it was linked in with the international version, all canonicalized to the international one, to the LinkedIn.com one. But let's say, I usually suggest that as an international SEO example, I mean, the Apple.com is done well. It's recently is disciplined well done because we are targeting all the countries in the world. So sometimes the problem is that in certain countries, for instance in Latin America, they don't have a regional office, a country office. So they need to use some sort of LATAM website with a content. I think they recently started doing well.
Yeah.
I usually use Apple as a good way to do a good country selector.
Another great example for international SEO is Amazon.
What I like is the Amazon card.
The Amazon card.
So they are using country code, domain names. They are not making you free or to using the alert. If you are going, for instance, you are in the United States, you go to amazon.co.uk, the alert advising you, maybe you should prefer to go to .com.
Yeah.
I think that is, not saying that it's perfect, because neither Amazon is perfect, but it's a good model.
I had a lot of fun catching up with Gianluca in Seattle right before MozCon. And I met Gianluca also in Adelaide when he came down to our conference, Big Digital Adelaide. He runs a conference of his own called The Inbounder. If you ever get a chance, I think it's a conference that runs every 2 years in Valencia, Espanol. And he does smaller ones every second year, I think in 4 cities, Milan, New York, and 2 others, which we'll have in the show notes. Yeah, we'll get into part 2 of my interview with Gianluca next week, but in the meantime, be sure to follow him on social media. We'll have all the links in the show notes and some of the awesome articles that he's produced. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, family, networks, colleagues, bots, and associates. Bobby's been programmed to ask me a few questions because he's such a damn quick learner. Over to you, Bobby.
You mentioned something you wrote in the past about user experience optimization. If you could go back in time, what would the future you tell the past you about how the web has evolved for users?
Sometimes we over-optimize things, and Google's getting a lot smarter detecting what websites are about. So focusing on user experience, they're looking at user experience signals more and more these days. I would tell the past self, keep doing what they're doing and don't change a single damn thing.
If you can go back in time to change an event in human or bot history, where would you go and why? And no, I'm not planning on using this information against you. At least not until someone develops liquid metal.
That's a tough one. So many events to choose from. Well, my background is Polish, and Poland got invaded quite a few times over history. So I'm just trying to pick which point in time we'd want to give him a break. Let's go with World War II. Let's say, no one got invaded. Let's go with that.
What can science fiction teach us about digital empathy?
Well, empathy is something that has propelled humanity forward. So science fiction still separates the artificial intelligence from human. It tells us that we can actually create the exact opposite of empathetic AIs. We can create things that can potentially destroy the human race. We have to be very careful that science fiction doesn't become science reality. Thanks again, WojCasters. That's all the time we have for today. Tune in next week for part 2 of my interview with Gianluca Fiorelli.
Or maybe would have been interesting to understand why Google bought all the robotics companies, and just after a few years they resold US robotics and so on.
And remember, look after each other online, because empathy is organic and you can't automate empathy.